So my experience begins when the wife and I moved to our new home in the North Georgia mountains. We'd been living in West Virginia since we married 22 years ago. Life was good, and the only reason for the move was my recent promotion to a newly opened branch of the company that I worked for over a decade now. We got a pretty good deal on an old farmhouse that had been completely renovated with all modern fixtures and new appliances. It was gorgeous. It also sat on nearly 50 acres of wooded land. When I tell you we got this place for a steal, that doesn't quite do it justice. It was like the previous owners just wanted to get rid of it, and we didn't ask many questions about it. We were comfortable with the reason that our agent gave us. He said the previous owners were from New York City and they thought that they wanted the country life, but quickly realized it wasn't for them. We understood that and we left it alone. I now believe that we know the truth. After hearing what's going on here, you might be surprised to hear that we have no intentions of doing the same. We love it here and we love the new friends that we've made. It was fall and we were getting settled in and we only had a little bit of unpacking left. Unfortunately, the majority of that was left to my wife since I was so busy with hiring new employees and everything that goes into launching a brand new business in a brand new area. I was swamped. The first thing we noticed, well, my wife noticed, was how strange the dogs seemed to act and how a brand new 40-pound bag of dog food seemed to grow legs and just walk off. The wife and I never had children. It was just something neither of us were interested in doing. We did have plenty of nieces and nephews and loved children. Just always felt like we enjoyed kids in moderation. Playing with the kids in our family and then sending them back home to their actual parents was always enough for us. That being said, our dogs were our children, and we loved them dearly. We have quite the odd couple of pooches. We have a Rottweiler and a little Beagle. The Beagle is scared of nothing. His nose gets him in trouble, so we were happy with all the acreage for him to roam. The Rottie was your typical big lazy boy. Not much got to him. Probably due to his age. He was getting up there. Anyway, we were shocked to see right from the start our Beagle would not go into the woods. There were many nights we would try to let him out to do his business, and he wouldn't go. This was the opposite of what we had expected. We thought with all that land we would let him go out in the morning and probably wouldn't see him again until later that evening when he came home with a rabbit or something. But this wasn't the case, though. It's like all of a sudden, he hated being outside. We had to put him on a leash and drag him out to do his business and then back in again. The Rottie would always just go out, do his business, and come right back in, so nothing really ever changed with him. The Beagle's behavior had a stump, to say the least. Before we realized it, a month had gone by and we were settling in for the most part. It was a weeknight, which one I don't recall, but I was at work like usual, and I got a call from my wife. She's frantic and screams that there's something looking in the kitchen window. I'm not sure if I'm hearing her right, so I tell her to repeat what she said. And she screamed, "There's someone effing looking through the kitchen window." Now I know there's something wrong because my wife never uses the F word. It's bad. I tell her to hang up and call 911. I'm on my way home. I was on my way home, and then it hits me. Our kitchen window is a good 7 or 8 feet off the ground. She's got to be mistaken, but it's better to be safe than sorry. By the time I made it home, I could see the blue lights coming over the ridge, but I couldn't hear any sirens, so the police and I made it at about the same time, with me slightly beating them in. I put it in park and ran in. My wife met me at the door and fell into my arms crying. She whispered in my ear, "I don't think it was a man." This caught me off guard, but we had an officer standing in our living room that we needed to talk to, so I just tucked it away. We were able to get her settled down enough to tell us exactly what happened. She said she started to cook supper when she noticed Benji, the Beagle, growling and hiding between her feet. He almost caused her to fall down. She noticed what direction he was looking in, and when she noticed it, a face was looking in at her. The officer said that he would take a look around, and the other officer joined him. While they were outside looking around, she took me into the kitchen to show me the window. I'll be damned if it didn't look like there was some sort of moisture on the glass. Also, up in the left corner, there was what looked to be a couple of fingerprints, but not normal-sized prints. I'd say they looked to be at least 3 times the size of my own fingers. Not thinking clearly, I took my fingers and tried to wipe away the moisture, but nothing happened. The marks were on the outside. She and I just stood there looking at each other with our mouths wide open. A couple of minutes later, the 2 officers came back inside. We had decided to show them what we had found, even at the risk of them calling us crazy. I mean, how would you have faked this? What did we have to lose, right? The officers looked at each other, and one of them got this grin on his face. And the other one, to our shock, looked like he might actually believe us. We got to talking to the two of them, and it turns out that the officer that smiled had a recent transfer to the area, while the other one that seemed to believe us said he had grown up in that area. He talked about his granddad and how he used to tell stories of the wood boogers, and that there were even cases of them peeking into windows. He said that he had never heard of any cases or stories of anybody getting hurt by these things, and it just appeared that for the most part they were just curious. We thanked them for their time and for taking us seriously, even if only half of them did so. Before they left, the one thing that we could agree on was that we needed to put up some floodlights and maybe do some security cameras. Guess what my job was the very next day? I was able to get some lights installed by one of the electrical contractors that the police officer recommended. And because I told him it was an emergency, he was able to get them up the very next day. The cameras we ordered from Amazon, and I was able to get those up 2 days later. We were amazed at how this seemed to do the trick. It even got to where Benji would play in the yard, but he still wouldn't go anywhere near the woods. If it's all right, I'll be sending along some of the other activities we've experienced here. It's become quite amazing, to say the least. We don't feel threatened in any way. We regularly receive gifts, and almost every day we leave them something. Well, there you go. I wanted to send this to you because that's how it all started. We live in a small town, so it's important that we stay anonymous. We love Sasquatch Odyssey and backwoods horror stories. It's the only reason we're writing in. Maybe one day we'd be interested in coming on for an interview, but for now, we're just going to enjoy our new friends and we want them to be safe. For that reason, we'll just keep things like they are for the time being. Thanks for all you do, and thanks for allowing us to share our experience.